Good evening. I'm Adventure Argonaut. Well, good midnight, at least for me. This is the Golden News, and I will bring you the news. The only news that matter, and the only news that are like totally not made up or anything. Wait, that sounds like TLDR, copyright infringement almost. So I can't say that. Anyways, I'm just rambling while I check my streams. And they all seem to be working. TLDR, TLDR, the YouTuber, at least he used to do YouTube. I think he still does occasionally, anyways. I think everything is working, so let's start with the news. Hey, Double Hertz, you're early. Well, I'm late, so I guess that explains it. But anyway, so the stock market or the market sort of crashed few days ago, and who really cares except like sort of like a small upvote or something like yeah, I guess that's cool. So yeah, here it says 2 trillion has been raised from the stock market today. So yeah, lots of red. And here my fitness feeling says, does no one ever stop and consider how fake the economy must be if 2 trillion in value can vanish overnight? Yeah, it's all fake, and it doesn't affect me. I don't own any I don't know own anything fancy, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, yeah, you have to be basically a millionaire to really care about this stuff, or to be propagandized into caring about it. So yeah, Morgoth says, serves them right for pushing all that gay shit. Yeah, exactly. Like it's these companies that basically hate you or at least despise you. Then, like at best, they want you as a pay pig slave or something, but don't really you know care. They just want to take your money and get you as their consumer. And also, shares of Japanese gaming companies are tanking due to U.S. tariffs. So I guess this is at least partially related to Trump's tariffs, and hey, that's I guess that's a good thing if Trump is crashing the global market or whatever. I'm not an economic specialist or anything, so I couldn't really say anything insightful about tariffs in general, like whether they are good and for whom they are good. But if they are causing this, that's good. Anyways, shares of Japanese companies are tanking due to U.S. tariffs. So Nintendo, Sony, Bandai Namco, Konami, Sega, Koei Tecmo, Capcom, Square Enix. Mobile companies do even worse. So yeah, it's funny because like you could look at pretty much all of these companies and decade or few ago they used to be great, or well, Square when it was Squaresoft, not Square Enix. But let's say 2 or 3 decades ago, all of these companies were pretty awesome, but nowadays they've been going downhill, some faster, some slower. So yeah, whatever, if they crash, if their stocks are down. And yeah, stock markets today, well, this is April 7th, so it's like a couple of days ago. Yeah, so, oh, Hong Kong is the highest loser here. We are winning. I bring you this news from Hong Kong, even though I'm not a native. But hey, Saudi Arabia is 0.5% up, so I guess they are the other winners. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, everything's going down, or I don't know if it's recovered yet or anything, but or how much. And even Tel Aviv stock market has plummeted over 5% in response to Trump's tariffs. So that's nice to hear. Even they are affected. And India backs down from retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, conceding to Trump. Officials now push for direct talks with the president for a new trade deal. So I guess he knows his business stuff, probably. There's some other stuff he can criticize him about, but I guess he knows how to handle this sort of stuff. And then this meme, boomers when their kids get murdered, he just made a mistake. And boomers when their 41k dips 2 points, unforgivable. I still haven't checked what actually is 41k, but it's something to do with their money or stocks or owning some crap like that. But yeah, that's basically the first story with the stocks and stuff, and the markets and crap. And I'll care about the um, prices crashing when it raises the price of food and whatever stuff that actually I or regular people have to worry about. And then white guy enriched with diversity had to get creative with the AI, because you can't just it won't give you an image of black guy stabbing a white guy or anything like that. So police say a 17-year-old was fatally stabbed by another student at Texas track meet. So yeah, 17-year-old student was fatally stabbed by another student during an altercation at a high school track meet in suburban Dallas on Wednesday, police said. The suspect, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, was taken into custody and charged with murder, according to Frisco. Blah blah blah. So yeah, what I heard about this is like the first was Austin Metcalf. Yeah, he's the victim. So yeah, so and what this article doesn't say, and I don't know if there should be an image here, but since it's in its archive, maybe that image just doesn't show. But anyways, is of course that the victim is a white guy, and the suspect or the alleged killer is a black guy, and of course you don't really hear about stuff like that except on Twitter or a bit more alternative news. But like I remember maybe a decade ago there was the shooting in somewhere in states like Dylan Storm Roof. He was some racist supposedly shot a church full of black people, something like that. And actually I was in Hong Kong back then as well, and I think they like reported it on mainstream news. But of course if the roles are reversed, then it's like crickets for some curious reason. And here is Austin Metcalf's father says he feels bad for his son's killer, and we should not be talking about Carmelo's bad choice. Okay, let's have
It's
a
very
listen.
unfortunate that this other child decided to make a bad choice that's going to affect him for the rest of his life. I have compassion for every human being. This is not, I want to make this very clear. This is not a race issue. This is not a black and white issue. I don't want someone stepping up on a soapbox trying to politicize this. I don't appreciate some of the remarks I've seen online that people say there was this fight and they don't know, they weren't there. It's very
Okay, I don't know. Like, is he in some weird cult or something? Like, does he really care? Like, is he really heartbroken over his son? I think this is just weird. But oh yeah, I remember like one detail I heard. I'm not sure if it's true, but supposedly it said that the suspect, that he was actually, that there were some tents there, and he broke into a tent, and he was supposedly trying to steal stuff, and then the victim, Austin Metcalf, tried to stop him, and then he got stabbed. Like, that's one story I've heard regarding this incident. Um, but hey, I guess I do agree with him that to a degree that it is this stories like this can be used to distract from bigger issues. Like seen some people point out, like how this is a distraction from the fact that the Epstein files still haven't been released and stuff like that. And like there's certainly people have differences based on various, whether it's ethnic or religious or ideological stuff. And I'm not saying every kind of people just should hold hands and sing kumbaya together, but yeah, these sort of I don't know, incidents just seem to pop up every now and then. But then again, it's I guess it's not so heavily publicized. I don't know, maybe it's in America, but I don't think it's so much elsewhere. Anyways, and there's this meme: felon drug addict ODs on fentanyl, wall-to-wall media coverage for months. American cities vandalized and burned to the ground. Yeah, and of course, back in when this happened, I was in Finland, of course, and I heard, even there it was on the news and everything. And then this white student athlete with 4 GPA killed, or 4.0 GPA. I guess that means it's good. I don't really know this, American education system stuff. Okay, he was killed over a seating spot, zero media coverage, not a single fire or aggressive protest started. So yeah, it is like it behooves people to notice these, curious discrepancies, how these, incidents are treated. And yeah, here is the this is the infamous Gillette ad, promising career, young football player. Young, and this is stopping him. I think, like, maybe it's a bit too soon, but this was just, I don't know, very appropriate, I think. Still, all things considered. Okay, but that's that incident. This one. Okay, let's go to the next story. So, German woman punished for undiversifying herself. Um, so yeah, it's I guess similar in some respects. This story, or there are similar, vibes, something. So a young girl was attacked by an Eritrean man. Eritrea is a country in Africa, if you didn't know, and who tried to rob and rape her. She defended herself with a knife and fatally wounded the attacker. Her trial has begun, and she is now facing charges of intentional bodily harm resulting in death. So yeah, it wasn't so easy finding mentions of this story, but at least there's no community note saying it's fake. And I asked Grok, the AI, and he says it referred to this article from December last year. So, American woman charged with stabbing Eritrean migrant during alleged sexual assault in Germany. And there's this story. So, young woman stabs man to death after he gropes her at a train station. So, an American woman who accidentally stabbed, is it accidentally? Stabbed an Eritrean to death faces up to 10 years in prison. A young woman, 20, was standing at a German train station on an escalator when a 65-year-old man grabbed her backside on June 29th. The incident occurred at Kaiserslautern train station in southwestern state of Rhineland-Palatinate. Palatinate? I don't know. After realizing what had happened, the woman turned around and drew a folding knife, gesturing toward the 64-year-old man. Wait, is it 65 or 64? Is this Nintendo and not Nintendo? I don't know. With stabbing movements. The woman explained to investigators that she wanted to keep the mat at a distance. Keep the mat doesn't mean the man. Am I dumb, or is this article dumb? And that when he eventually took a step back, so did she. So yeah, they both took a step back. The man then grabbed the arm that the woman was holding the knife in, and the woman struggled to free herself. She accidentally stabbed the man in the heart during the same movement. The prosecutors revealed that the man died within a matter of seconds after being stabbed. So if it is true that he was harassing her, I don't really, I think she was justified. It was justified self-defense, even if she wasn't intending to kill him. But of course, European law is quite different, especially like if you are not a criminal, you defend yourself, and if the criminal gets hurt, you suffered. There was like this Married with Children episode back in the day. Al Bundy, the show. You probably heard of Al Bundy. If you don't know, if you're not old like me and you don't know the show. But anyways, there was a thief who came to their house, and then Al Bundy punched him in the face, and then the thief sued him for breaking his jaw or nose or whatever. And there's like, oh my god, I'm screwed. Al Bundy thought, but then then he realized he could counter sue, and then he sued the thief for breaking his fist. So yeah, but that was America, and at least they have some rights there that Europe does not. At least most European countries. Speaking of other European countries, so Nigel Farage's party suspends Islamophobic politician. Um, so here is the story. Nigel Farage's Reform UK suspended a candidate for calling Islam a false religion. So that's the politician, I guess, or wannabe politician candidate. So yeah, so there were like two different candidates they suspended because they didn't like them. But well, yeah, there's one who was defended Jimmy Savile, who was he was friends with the royal family and with BBC for decades, and then after he died, a bunch of revelations came out that he was a PDF file, as they say nowadays. But anyways, so I guess yeah, I think suspending this sort of guy, if this is true, is reasonable. But this is like, but yeah, here it says. Meanwhile, the Sunday Mirror learned of another candidate, Miss Thomas, who has repeatedly posted on Facebook that Islam is a false religion. She has also posted an image online claiming Muslim people were trying to take control of the UK and impose Sharia law. But is this false? Like, some Muslim people, I've seen evidence that they are in, like, maybe it's not all probably, and maybe not even the majority, but some certainly are. And another image depicted Islam as a snake devouring a person, feeding it from a bottle. So yeah, it's like, isn't this supposed to be democracy? Like, let the woman run, and if people like her message, they will vote for her. If they don't, then they won't vote for her. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? Um, but I guess not nowadays. That's not European contemporary European democracy. Certainly not. But yeah, I think these three stories, like the stabbing in US and then the stabbing in Germany and then this one, they sort of highlight how the laws are, and the establishment is against certain kinds of people, and but then it tries to protect another kinds of people. Like usually, if you are a native European, ethnically, then the establishment is against you for some curious reason. And then compulsory Israel del Diest, Israel has to be destroyed. And of course, talking about the political entity, no harm towards people. But anyway, so let's have some stories relating to this. So Netanyahu is in America again, and apparently Trump, was his what is a servant, like a butler? Is there like a certain like a title for a servant who pushes the chair for you? But at least here Trump looks sort of pissed off. Like, of course, it's possible that he's just thinking about something else, but maybe he's not so happy at what he has to do here. maybe, hopefully. And then there's this White House canceled the scheduled press conference between Netanyahu and Trump with no official reason. Like, maybe it means that they don't really see eye to eye on some important issues, or maybe it's just yeah, scheduling whatever stuff. Both are busy men, so that's a possibility. Certainly, that is nothing that significant. And so Europe has the values of the Talmud, head of the European Union. You don't say. So let's listen.
Europe is the values of the Talmud, the Jewish sense of personal responsibility, of justice, and of solidarity.
So okay, why is this woman promoting the Talmud? Is she Jewish? Like, it's the Jewish holy book, quote unquote, and with says that Jesus is burning in, or like boiling in excrement in hell and stuff like that. And what else does it say? That non-Jewish people aren't really human and they're just slaves, and there's all sorts of sort of, let's say, politically incorrect stuff, you could say, nowadays. Except that political correctness seems only to go one way. So it's like, well, why is she promoting? Well, who? Nobody voted for her. I don't even remember her name. I remember her face, but but I do appreciate her candor, her honesty. Like, you know, I guess it's not really a conspiracy theory to say certain kinds of people tend to control Western countries. And yeah, okay, here's Vice President J.D. Vance. President Trump and had a very productive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today. Israel is an important ally of the United States, and I look forward to continuing our relationship. Okay, I want to ask this: how exactly is Israel your ally? What have they done for you outside of USS Liberty and, let's just say, blackmail? And there's APAC tracker here says like, oh, he's got that, but he didn't even get that much money. I think this is small potatoes, 167,000 dollars. It's not even much, for people in these circles. Like, I would like to have this kind of money on my bank account, but like, for a vice president of the United States, he's probably a millionaire. If he's not, he's doing something wrong. Anyways, and so here is, this is not directly Israel related, but let's say indirectly this is. So Pamela Pandi here saying, following tonight's landmark Supreme Court ruling, the American people can rest assured that Sec Noem, real Tom Homan, and I will direct our assets to scout the country for any remnants of the Tren de Aragua and deport them. I guess it's some Mexican criminal organization or something, probably. But yeah, Foundering asks, hey, didn't you say the Epstein files were on your desk? Don't you have a Fox News prostitute appearance to make instead of, stopping the international pedo ring? Do you have to continue carrying water for Israel, which is why you were chosen? You're disgusting. Yeah, because since these people, politicians and whatever attorney generals, all these official people, they are ignoring, they're forgetting the Epstein files. It's it would implicate that they are somehow, at least indirectly, they benefit from the fact that these files have not been made public. Let's put it that way. I don't think Pamela Bondi necessarily was on Epstein Island or anything like that, but maybe she's working for somebody who was. And okay, so there's this kid and the rebel supporting killing innocent people and babies and smearing voice voices that fight against genocide for some APAC money says a lot about your character. You should be ashamed of yourself. How do you sleep at night? And here is Senator Randy Fine. Quite well, actually. Thanks for the pick. So, isn't this sort of like you okay, this is from like 2021, so this is an old picture, but it still highlights the kind of people these are. And this should sort of be like advocating for violent events or something, might be construed as breaking community guidelines. Yeah, this has to be the most vile man in politics. Well, I disagree. I think there are even more vile men in politics, men and women both. I think many of them are equally vile. Anyways, so grandson of ex-Hamas leader Khalil al-Halaya has been eliminated today in Gaza. So they are eliminated. It's a kid who is like 4 or 5 years old, and they are happy about it. Apparently, they're celebrating it. Israeli shields are truly something spawned from hell. Well, no argument there. And yeah, Gaza is on fire. Uh, wait, this is from like a year ago or something, April. So, but yeah, the 95% glow that they committed Holocaust right before our very eyes. So yeah, even if it's not literally on fire right now, but it's um this sort of stuff still happens. Like Gaza, as far as I know, is not turned into a paradise just yet. Okay. And there's this Jewish students have been forced to cancel their Seton Hall University drag queen bingo after event after outrage from Catholics. So I'm just like, why is it Jewish? What's the relationship between Jewish and drag queen bingo? Again, is it like a religious thing for them? It's very curious. Okay, that was the last Israel Delandiest story for now. Let's move on to Schwab retires or is about to retire. Klaus Schwab of the WEF. So he will step down as WF chairman, and there's some article that said like it's probably gonna happen in like not immediately, like 2027 or something, and it's not really something really to celebrate about, because even if he steps down, they're just gonna find somebody similar to him, somebody a bit younger, but with similar kind of ideas. So, yeah, but it's just the news. I don't have really anything interesting to add except like would be very unfortunate in the next if in the next Davos meetings, like I don't know, as the meteorite would, or vaporize their whole venue, or I don't know, accidental airstrike or something like that. Like it would be very unfortunate. Okay, let's get to gaming and entertainment news. Well, mostly gaming. Yeah, like not so many like regular news this week, but there are more gaming news than usual. Well, one thing is very obvious. You can probably guess from the picture. But first, let's have a look here. So yeah, sad news. Tencent will pull plug on the Assassin's Creed. So yeah, Ubisoft has potential, but they need our guidance to stay relevant, said Martin Lau, president of Tencent. We'll help them evolve, and that means focusing on content that delivers long-term, consistent revenue. So yeah, are you happy now, Josh? Why didn't you just buy the game? So yeah, basically, their new Chinese masters are shitting on them that they are retards. I guess that's what it means, which is fun. Fun always to shit on Ubisoft. Ubisoft is dying, dying. We are demanding that the French court compel Ubisoft to convene an extraordinary general meeting (EGM), giving our shareholders the right to vote on two critical resolutions. We negotiate the Tencent deal. This transaction must be restructured into a direct asset sale to Tencent for no less than 4 billion euros, and the valuation already accepted by both Tencent and Ubisoft's board. At the moment, shareholders have no clarity how the deal that was announced last week will eventually benefit shareholders of Ubisoft and distribute extraordinary dividend following the sale. Ubisoft shall return 23 euros per share in cash to shareholders, totaling 3 billion euros, while preserving the 1 billion euro to cover remaining corporate net debts. Tencent. It's weird seeing the euro in front of the number. At least, in Finland, we use it, put it at the back because you say, 23 euros. You don't say euro 23. Anyways, whatever. Tencent be excluded from voting due to its direct interest in the outcome of the GMO brothers holding voting rights to be limited to the non-Tencent linked shares. I guess like also the idea that Chinese don't get full control of this, or at least can't don't get the grubby hands on this French company. That also intrigues me because like I really hate Ubisoft, and I want to see them suffer. But I don't want China to own everything. Ubisoft is collapsing, so yeah, yeah. Well, their stocks were down in by 3 Gorillion players. It's massive success actually. What can be done by Ubisoft to recover themselves? Gay Black Samurai did not work. What a shocker! I was expecting it to work. Hey, Lightkind. Microsoft acquires Square. Where did you see that? I'm gonna get to the story soon. Well, I think there's others, but I'll let's see. Yeah, let's see if when I get to the story, it's somewhere here. Welcome to the stream, and okay, but the biggest gaming news is of course the Nintendo Switch 2, and people are not happy about it. Personally, I wasn't planning on buying a Switch 2. Even if the prices weren't too high and all that stuff. But like certainly Nintendo didn't convince me to that I should change my tune after more revelations about Switch 2. So I have a few different news about it. So yeah, it says that the welcome tour will cost basically $10, and I think it's just like tech demos and demos. So even stuff like that isn't free. It's just weird. Like you'd think that Nintendo doesn't have to nickel and dime in this way. Like, of course, the games have always been overpriced, but at least like in that sense, they could argue that our products are they have the Nintendo seal of quality. But if it's just some I don't know, welcome to our tech demo crap, shouldn't shit like this come with the console? Like the 8-bit Nintendo, you had usually Super Mario and Duck Hunt, and then Super Nintendo had the Super Mario World and all that. But is there even a free game with consoles nowadays? No. I think back in the day that was given that you bought a console, you would get at least one game. And anyways, Nintendo Switch 2 console will have paid language DLCs. So yeah, they uh, this is in yen, but I think the USD price. Hey, Plutia, thanks. Welcome to the stream. I have so many different chats because there's somebody in Twitch and a Kick and now Rumble chat. Welcome to stream. But anyways, Nintendo. So yeah, this is like 350 USD, I think, just the Japanese language version. And if you want multi-language, then you have to pay like $500 or something. And somebody did argue that it's basically like if it's initially released only in Japan, then it's to make it more difficult for scalpers to buy them off. And in that sense, if that's true, if it actually works, it makes sense. But after that, after they release it elsewhere, I think the price should go down then. For the multi-language version as well. Um, but yeah, it is expensive. I do think. Especially it's not doesn't seem that innovative compared, it's the Switch 2, because Nintendo has never been just, PlayStation is 1 2 3 4 5, but for Nintendo they're from, Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii, and so on. They at least try to innovate. It's just, I don't know, it feels like they got like the Sony CEO as their CEO or something. Anyways, and the Nintendo justifies $80 price tag for Switch 2 games, citing development and replayability as key factors. So yeah, $80 is too much. Hi, light kind. No, yeah, I'll get to the news later about Microsoft buying Square. I think at least I saw a news. I'm not 100% sure if it's accurate, but we'll get to it in a bit. The Square news, but yeah, so yeah, I think $80 is too much. Like at least Nintendo, if they are basic Nintendo quality, they at least aren't usually buggy messes when they come out. But it's still too much, too expensive. Like, and it's not even that I could afford to buy at least one $80 game per month and stuff nowadays. Not when I was a kid, but even if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't want to do it because it's just I find it insulting. And and here it says Nintendo made its own Switch emulator for the Nintendo Switch 2. An interview with Switch devs revealed that the Nintendo Switch 2 plays the Switch 1 games via emulation. Wasn't it also like PlayStation 3 emulated PlayStation 2 games or something? But hey, but I was just thinking, like, shouldn't Nintendo sue themselves because they've been suing people who make Nintendo Switch emulators? So shouldn't Nintendo be suing Nintendo now? So yeah, it's software emulator, hardware compatibility. So yeah, and I don't know, like, why aren't they just? Well, yeah, we'll get to that later, but I don't think they are truly, compatible. Like, we with Wii you could play GameCube games, but it's not as simple with Switch 2. You can't simply play Switch games, I think, even though it was supposed to be backwards compatible. So yeah, here's 80 $80 digital game, supposedly $90 for physical. Need to pay to upgrade games from Switch. Games aren't even on cartridge. The system is region locked because it's cheaper in Japan. What were they thinking? It's James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd. I wish he would say stuff like something like this and make a video, right? So yeah, it's supposedly like it's $80 for digital games and 90 for physical games, which is outrageous. And Nintendo has confirmed that some Switch 2 games won't have the game on the cart. The cartridge will only be used as a license check, and the game will need to be downloaded. So it's like I I I don't know, like, why. What exactly does it make? Like, why can't they just do it the old way? Like, they have been making cartridge games for like almost 40 years, or is it over 40 years now? But like, why do they have to have it downloaded now? Um, PC games back in the day were 40 to 60, but they also came with cloth maps, big manuals, and so on. $80 when you don't even get all that is dumb. Yeah. And where PC games really $60? Because for me, since I'm from Finland, and we back in the day in the 90s we used to use Finmark, and now we use euro. So euro is basic, more or less the same as a USD, but like the conversion between the currencies is, you know, not so sure. I don't remember the prices so well, but anyways, let's move on. And the Nintendo Switch 2 games will be more expensive physically than digitally. So yeah, so Mario Kart World will be 90 freaking euros physically. Yeah, yeah, physical. Yeah, so and some are 70, 80. Yeah, it's quite expensive. Especially nowadays, you can get so many good games. If you have a PC that can run games, you can get cheap games on Steam or GOG and stuff, cheap good games, or you can even get them for free if you really swing that way, without much effort. And it's here it says, as a reminder, you will need to purchase a micro SD express card to use on your Nintendo Switch 2. Current micro SD cards won't be compatible. They are of course more expensive than regular micro SD cards. So yeah, it says $200. It's quite expensive. So if you pay $500 for the Switch 2 and then have to buy this card, is 700 already. Plutia says, I remember Ultima Online being $60, but there were others. My parents paid for the games then. Haha. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess maybe Ultima Online. But Ultima Online was probably, was it subscription model as well? And Lightkind saying, Switch 2 is a complete ripoff, but I'm addicted to getting it day one. Oh no, please control yourself. Control yourself. Mm. And yeah, so here's this. If you have the Nintendo Switch version of a game, you can play the Nintendo Switch 2 edition by purchasing an upgrade pack. Or does it mean that you can, like, if I have Breath of the Wild, for example, if I want, can I just play my regular cartridge on the Switch 2, but it would be the less advanced version. But if I pay for the upgrade pack, then it's gonna have advanced graphics or something. Is that, or is it that you simply cannot play it without the upgrade pack? I'm not sure, but it is still scummy if you can't. You should just be able to plug it in and play. Like, that's how it should work. Uh, don't really matter. The casual gamers will the price setters. I have faith in humanity. Well, that's where we differ. I don't have faith in humanity, especially when looking at gamers and stuff. It's I don't know. So sometimes gamers are a bit too you know like slaves basically to their desires. And to a certain extent, of course, just being a gamer, it is, you are addicted to it to a certain extent, but you can still be smart about it and not just throw money away. Anyways, so what's this? And yeah, okay, speaking of that, Pirate Nation asks, are Nintendo fans borderline cultists? Because yeah, let's be real, Mario Kart World will be worth $80. So yeah. And Nikki here says, watching Nintendo fans go through 5 stages of grief just go back to bootlicking is incredible. Yeah, it's like okay, I believe it's Mario Kart World isn't gonna suck. I think usually Mario Kart games are decent, but they're not like well my one of my biggest issues with the games themselves in Nintendo is they're like sort of bland sludges, like they're for everybody, and I usually tend to prefer sort of niche kind of games. Of course, Nintendo fans are cultists. Like, yeah, I guess if you're a fan, well, fanatic, fan comes from fanatical, so yeah, that's in the definition already. Anyways, let's see. And there's this game, this wheelchair game, and I don't know. Is the game looks okay? Somebody said it looks more like a tech demo, but maybe it's fun. It reminds me of what's that? Is it Rocket League? The car football game. But actually, Rocket League looks seems much more interesting. But what really bothers me with this game, it looks very dystopian, but not cool dystopian, not like cyberpunk. It's sort of like depressing. It's like why, and especially it's Nintendo. Nintendo is known for the nice and colorful things. Like there's some neon color, so that's like I don't know. It's weird. What's happening to Nintendo? And okay, there's this because a lot of people on Twitter have been saying like, oh, all these Zoomers crying about Nintendo games being expensive, but back in the day, back in the 90s, like they used to be super expensive too. Yeah, these are Nintendo 64 games, so they're like $60, and of course with inflation, it's probably much higher. And of course, I think Super Nintendo games used to be in similar range, but that just means that yeah, Nintendo games used to be overpriced, but usually, I think usually other platforms were a bit cheaper back in the day. Um, but even if they weren't, like the fact that it used to be overpriced doesn't mean that it has to be overpriced now. Especially since they were physical cartridges, and it actually probably it costs something to produce them and ship them and all that stuff. And here they're pointing out that back in I guess early 2000s, the GameCube with Mario Kart was only $99, so $100. So that was cheap. Like yeah, it's almost nowadays you could basically that's the price of a game. Okay, with inflation, maybe it's like $150, but it's still quite cheap for a console and a game. Those were the days, yeah. I never had a GameCube, but those were the days still. I had a PlayStation 2 back in the day. I still have it. And okay, and then there's this Dusk Bloods that's coming on Switch 2, which is, the unofficial sequel to Bloodborne. And it says that Dusk Bloods IP is fully owned by From Software, time exclusive. So I guess it means if it's time exclusive, it's gonna come on PC, you know, after a year or something probably, which is nice. And because yeah, the reason why Bloodborne hasn't gotten a remake or a sequel or anything like that, or hasn't been released outside of PlayStation 4, is that Sony doesn't want to do that, I guess. Which is unfortunate. That's why I have never played it. But yeah, here is they're saying Dusk Plus. This is nothing like Bloodborne, no character creation, always online, pre-made hero characters like Fortnite, no Lovecraft, Gothic influence, random Chinese wuxia shit, random steampunk shit, random robot jetpack dinosaurs. Okay, uh, this is of course just somebody being salty on the internet because they probably don't know a great deal about the game. But if this is true, it doesn't sound that exciting. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, here is Microsoft has acquired Square Enix for 6 billion. First, wait, is this? I, well, it says April the 2nd, but like, I hope it's not April Fool's joke. Wait, is it actually April Fool's joke and I fell for it? Because it didn't say April 1st here. Yeah, this is just the image. Wait. Uh, so yeah, Square Enix has announced new business plan that will see the company shift away from console exclusives like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy 14, no 16. New strategy will see the company aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that will see its games released across all modern platforms, including PC, Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. This is a massive shift in the company's policy, which frequently saw games released exclusively, sometimes seemingly permanently only on certain consoles like PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch. As a relevant bit from their new plan, diversify earnings opportunities by strengthening customer contact points, shift to a multi-platform strategy. Okay, so wait, I don't know, like, was I rickrolled or something? I hate April Fools. I guess this is April Fool. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's on me. Maybe I should have checked better. But like because I thought niche gamer is a trusted source, and it wasn't April 1st, but I guess it was still April Fools for them because different time zones and stuff. Sorry, light guy. Well, no, you're probably happy like me that it's not true because I didn't like the idea of Microsoft buying it. Yeah, I got fooled by the news story. Yeah, I don't know. Usually April Fools, I expect something humorous. Well, okay, the price seemed a bit excessive, $6 billion. It sounds high, but hey, what do I know? I'm poor. Um, okay, so that was fake news. Okay. Um, Damn niche gamer. They also had another story that I first thought it was real, but it was something about Elon Musk being banned from Diablo, which is like I think it's like because these are uh, news stories that sound credible. That's the problem. Like, shouldn't you be a bit outrageous when you um, make April Fool's jokes? I don't know. But anyways, let's go to Oblivion Game of the Year Steam page has been updated. Trailers removed. Trailers have been removed. This happens often before remakes, remasters get released. Announcement could be very soon. Well, I'm just asking whether uh, whether they it's actually even happening. Like, I'm not sure. Like, is there any official announcement from Bethesda that the Oblivion remake is gonna happen or not? Or are they just is this just a rumor that got out of hand? Because yeah, almost every week I see somebody saying something about this, but I don't know. It's still just rumors and clues like this, or maybe it's actually maybe the Elder Scrolls 6 is actually going to be released sooner than we thought. That it's not the Oblivion remake. Maybe it's going to be the Elder Scrolls 6, and it's going to come out like this Christmas or something. I don't know. Okay, let's and there's South of Midnight advanced access. So this is some new woke game, and Arch Warhammer Arch Cast whatever, he made a video at like this highest player count was like 566, and it's like I've hardly even heard about, like barely heard about this game. And I thought, like, why? Like, nobody really cares, like, because the wokies themselves, they don't really care about this game. And those anti-woke people either, they're not really angry about this game. And the difference, of course, is that somebody like Assassin's Creed Shadows or Dragon Age Veilguard is that they are franchises with millions of fans, and when then wokeness tries to ruin those games, then people get angry and they talk about it. But this is like, who cares? South of Midnight, whatever. And Far Cry 4, 10 years old Ubisoft game gets censorship. They covered all the nipples. So if this is true, for the record, this isn't bait or a mod. I just checked it's real. Changes were also made to the audio files, but only the English ones. I'm looking into what might have changed. They didn't change the Yuma model in any capacity, if I had to guess. They just went to the Far Cry 6 route and covered all the nipples. Hers were covered by her jacket to begin with, so there were nothing to change. Kalinak's model is also unaffected. Okay, I don't know, I haven't played the game or anything, but it's like, why do you have to censor a 10-year-old game? Or is it over 10 years old now? When did it come out? It's just crazy. And okay, new recompilation tool is being developed to enable native PC ports of PS2 games. So I guess it means that you would be able to play PlayStation 2 games on PC without without using an emulator. Like, okay, it shouldn't be too difficult to use an emulator either nowadays to play PS2 games. I'm not sure if I've ever played PlayStation 2 games on an emulator. I've played a bunch of other consoles, but maybe not that. But maybe I should try a bit more of PlayStation 2 emulation stuff too. I have a PlayStation 2, but it's back in Finland and not here in where I am now in Hong Kong, so I can't use it. And also, I don't know how. If I tried to stream games, I mean, it probably would be a hassle. And this is another PlayStation story. So PS1 is over 400 exclusive games. PS2 is over 500. PS3 is only 180. PS4 is 58, and PS5 is 13. So this is quite, yeah. This shit is too funny at this point. Yeah, it's like somebody did point out that it's good that there are not so many exclusives. That people on other platforms can also play the games, and yeah, from I guess from a consumer's viewpoint, in that sense, it's good news. However, it's I guess it's not in practice, because I think it also represents how many good games the systems have, because both PlayStation 1 and 2 had a great library of games. But back when PlayStation 3 came out, I thought about buying it, like because I was a Sony fan back then. But then it's like I didn't really have many games when it came out, and I ended up with a Wii instead. And yeah, overall, like I don't think PlayStation 3 had that many interesting games, and 4 was even worse, and 5 is you know has no games at all. But I do like the PlayStation 5 controllers. I think they feel good. Yeah, funny story. If assuming these numbers are accurate, of course. And okay, here it says Valve has made around $100 million from players opening Counter Strike 2 cases last month alone. Okay, that sounds insane. Yeah, it says here Valve made insane amount of money from CS2 cases just last month alone. Yeah, you know, I don't really begrudge Valve for this. Like, it sounds like silly, but it's like, why? What do you get from the loot boxes or whatever? Like, do you get better weapons, or is it just cosmetic, or how does it work? I don't know. I've never played any Counter Strike, but it's just this sort of behavior sort of reminded me of the quote from Henry Kissinger, who said that soldiers are dumb animals used for foreign policy. And it sort of made me think that these people like if it's the like I'm not saying that there's something wrong with you if you play Counter Strike. It's probably a fun game if you play it with the right people and stuff. But like some people seem to only play this sort of war games and nothing else, and that's like I don't know, sounds a bit dull to me. And they sort of yearn just to be used by somebody else to tell them to hey go fight, like since they cannot do it in real life then they do it in games. Like of course you can say that about any kind of games, it's escapism and stuff, but I don't know, like how many people are playing Counter Strike 2? I don't know. I don't really know anybody who plays Counter Strike, so don't know. And there's this the guy who cracked, bypassed the Denuvo and Hogwarts Legacy is developing a tool that is capable of defeating all kinds of DRM protections. It can monitor everything that DRM does. You could even crack the game much faster. The reason cracking Denuvo always takes so long is because there are so many things that need to be patched. This program can automate the process, making Denuvo cracks faster and easy. So yeah, pretty good news if it actually works. I hate Denuvo. Supposedly, it makes the games work much slower, and also, there have been rumors over the years that it can even harm your computer. Maybe it's old news or fake news, but still, I don't trust Denuvo, and I don't want to install any Denuvo games on my computer. And okay, last is not game news, it's Star Wars news, but I just want to mention this. So, John Boyega, the guy who played Finn, this guy says Star Wars is so wide that the black person existing in it is a big deal. Toxic fans are okay with us playing the friend, but we can't touch the heroes. Well, I don't really care about his, blah, blah, blah complaining. I want to address the point that so many times when people are commenting about, Finn or John Boyega, they're saying that Finn was such a good character and Disney ruined it. But like, no, I think Finn was a really bad character. He was really annoying and babbled around and blah blah blah. He didn't fit in Star Wars at all. And like, of course, the idea of a stormtrooper who really you know leaves the empire and tries to redeem his evil ways, that would have been an interesting character if done right, but I don't think Finn would have been it. I think that character was really annoying. uh Plutia says, I'd like something that monitors what DRM does. Star Wars destroyed my Windows installations back in the day. It's why I like GOG the most. No DRM. Yeah, that's pretty cool that, yeah, no DRM. Yeah, and I don't know, like, because Denuvo is the most famous DRM nowadays. Like, there are some others, but that's also the most infamous, I guess. But yeah, it's possible that some are even worse, or maybe some are actually much better. And I can respect the right of the companies to protect their intellectual property and all that stuff. However, if they do it at the expense of the quote unquote consumer, that's where that's a different story. Because yeah, I don't care so much about the company and their rights. I just want good product, good game, and I can play it without it causing other issues. And I don't want to pay too much, and I don't want to be insulted by the company or anything like that. But anyways, that was the last piece of news, and but yeah, just to get back to the Finn Star Wars Finn story, I think it's sort of like some sort of virtue signaling, people saying like, oh, would have liked Finn if not for this and that. Like it's sort of like a subtle way of saying I'm not racist, but like no, Finn was a horrible character. Like they could have had okay, if they wanted to have a black character they should have gotten different character, different actor. I don't think John Boyega did that such a good thing. A good deal either with the character, but whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Market's crashing. PlayStation Switch 2 is coming out whenever. I don't even remember if it's gonna come out. I think it's this summer, but don't really care. Well, we're gonna find out. Like the worst part was about the Switch 2 news that the day after the news came out about these prices and stuff. Like my Twitter timeline was full of news about Switch 2. And of course, I want to hear the news, but it was full, like it was inundated with that, and that was annoying. But that's all I have to say for today. I'm at Adventure Argonaut. Thank you for watching, and thanks for everybody showing up, especially Plutia, Agent Doppelhertz, Lightkind. Thanks for chatting with me, and bye bye. Gambling. No, I have to. I'll try to do some gambling tomorrow, maybe. But today is just my Tuesday news day. Is my news stream. So, bye bye.